I went to a design lecture once and they said, clients buy what they can see. And so the thing is, if you're designing a certain type of work for yourself, that's what they buy. They say, Jamie, can I have this thing, but for me? What they never do, ever, is say, we've got this idea for this kind of crazy thing. It's not really something that you do, but can you help us with it? That never happens. It's like, we want this and we want you to do your version of it for this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Open Studio. Today, I'm joined by type designer and lettering artist Jamie Clarke. Jamie is based near Bristol in the UK and is the founder of Jamie Clarke Type. His award-winning fonts are widely used and distributed through his own foundry, as well as Adobe and Canva. Alongside his retail fonts, he creates custom typefaces and lettering for clients like Disney, Artman, and the Royal Mint. He also serves as chair of the Letter Exchange, where he supports collaboration and conversation across all lettering disciplines. And we are recording this episode during a retreat with the business mentoring group called The Big Leap. We have a live audience with us, which are our members. And at the end of the session, we will open it up for some questions from the group. But first, I want to welcome Jamie. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us today. Jamie, I've been following your work for such a long time. I really love how you have built a business around letter design with also the capability to serve different industries and to do different things with your skills. And I think that our listeners and our members will get a lot of value from hearing from someone from you, how you build that business. And we're going to dive into all of the details today. Yeah. But first, I want to dive into, how did you get into this? How someone like Jamie got into the type and lettering world? When did it first enter your life?
Well, I mean, back at college, back at uni, I was always kind of, tinkering with type and typography. And it was at a time when there was a lot of experimentation. I mean, bear in mind, this is many years ago. But then my first job out of university was like an early web startup, and there was no type. No kind of live type on the internet at that point. And so it's not a straight road at all. It really, I was out of that kind of type world for like 20 years. There was nothing really until Typekit came along. And
what is Typekit for those that know?
Typekit, for those who don't know, is what Adobe Fonts is now. So Adobe bought Typekit. And Typekit was an early platform that allowed you to use your own fonts and retail fonts on the internet. And so before that, really, there was nothing. I mean, you had to design websites thinking, what do my users have on their computer already? And it was basically Arial or Times. And then when Matthew Carter designed them, it was Georgia and what was the other typeface he did? Georgia and Verdana. Yeah. So that was it. That was all you had. And so I was really out of the loop on type and lettering. And I had this real kind of hankering to get back to it. And I set up a little blog. I mean, I thought, I didn't think anything of it at the time. I wanted to just document what I was seeing. And at that time, I mean, this would have been, where would we be? We'd have been 2012. Actually, it was 2011, I think, when I set the blog up. And so I think you were working then. You were working as a letterer then. You were one of my inspirations. Oh. And people like Jessica Heish, Dana Tanamachi, all these people were kind of working in the industry, and I was looking at their work, and I basically just show a piece of work and say why I liked it. It was as simple as that. It was like, why do I like this piece? And it made me it was like a scrapbook. It made me sort of think about, what I liked. And really it was just trying to figure out what my taste was. But at that point, I didn't even know what I didn't know. I mean, all I knew was what I liked and what I didn't like. But there was nothing else behind it. And I was working for myself. I had two business partners, and we were running a digital agency, which we'd done for 10 years. And we were very successful. We had 20, 30 staff. I think there's about nearly 30 staff at its peak. But after 10 years, we were just all kind of burnt out. I mean, I think you have a similar story where you were like, I'm just not sure this is the right industry for me. I'm not going anywhere. And so this scrapbooking and thing, and I was like, you know what, I really, really want to do this. And my partners, I think they'd had enough too. And we ended up selling the agency to a friendly competitor. And that gave me a bit of runway. That gave me a bit of sort of money that I could sort of think to myself, okay, look, I don't need to worry for a little bit. I can go and retrain. And, I tried out letterpress. I tried out screen printing. I tried out some compositing, for letterpress printing and things. Anyway, all this kind of stuff. And I wasn't really brilliant at any of those things, and I decided to go to Reading for their summer course.
Okay. So for those that don't know, Reading is a type design master program. It's like a 2 years type design master program, right?
Yeah. I think the master is a really full-on year. I think that's it. And you design a Latin typeface and a non-Latin typeface.
Yeah.
And I think they might be doing it again this year. But anyway, they had a summer program, and somebody said you should go on this summer program. And it's just basically the MA condensed into a couple of weeks. I mean, it was really intense, but it was brilliant. It was life-changing. It just gave me the confidence to start working with type and lettering, and the sort of, it was looking under the hood of the, I look at my car, I don't know what happens under the engine. I don't know what's going on, but that did kind of lift the veil really on the industry and how it works, how it operated. And, I thoroughly loved it. And I ended up going back again the next year because I had started a typeface. And Jerry Leonardis, the course leader, said, well, look, come back and we'll have another look at it. And so I did it again, which was brilliant. And that was it. And kind of, it gave me the confidence. It gave me the start. I still didn't know what I was going to do, but at least I had a bit of knowledge. And,
I love this, Jamie. I'm taking notes as you speak, because I'm often asked, and probably you as well, like how do you get into this world, or how do you learn this if you're a beginner? And I always say that you can start by something simple, which is turning this into your lens. And I think what and turning this into your lens means that you start putting your focus on things that have to do with that thing you want to learn. So if you want to learn to draw letter forms, how can you turn that into your lens? How can you walk down the street instead of looking at your phone, just looking at typography around you, being critical about what you see, joining meetings with people who are doing the thing that you want to do? How do you turn that into your lens? And I feel like you did that by starting your blog, where you turn that into your lens. You started to look at things critically and trying to understand why you like this. And then you dive deeper into, okay, I'm going to take a course and learn the craft in depth. And I think there's something magical about learning, joining an intensive experience like the one you joined in Reading, which has to do with building that confidence in a very short time period, right? Yeah. So from January to December, you can see a real leap in the work that you do, just because you learn so many things in that 1 year. Yeah, and I think that those are so much the pattern that I see happening in many of the people I interview in the podcast, designers like you, illustrators, that they start by, okay, I'm interested in this. How can I dive deeper into this and see if this could be something for me? And that's it. When you discover that, then you go deep and you start seeing like a real leap in your work. When was the moment where when this clicked for you and you started thinking, hey, this is what I want to do and this could work out for me as a career path?
Well, I just started designing and lettering a few things that I really liked. That was simply it. That was all it is that what sort of work do I like? What sort of work do I want to do? And you have a few false starts. You design some things, and you're not really happy with them, and then you try some other things, and then you're like, hey, yeah, this is working. I like this. This is in my zone. It's my own thing. It's not like anyone else's thing. It's just this. So I designed a sort of a very typographic kind of print, and had some written work with it and things, and that was the springboard. It was like that one project, and it's kind of like. You have to have work to attract any work. I mean, I wasn't even really sort of thinking, am I going to do this professionally? Is this, it's very hard because you're taking a leap of faith, aren't you? You can't see the road. You can't see the end of the road. You can't even see halfway down the road, but you have to kind of take this leap and sort of trust yourself. And I was in the lucky position where I had some financial stability from selling the agency, and I just gave myself a little bit of space. I didn't put too much pressure on myself. It was just like, okay, this is an opportunity. They don't come along every day. Let's see if I can kind of make it work. So that was it. And at that time, we were toying with the idea of going out to Australia from London, because we were living in central London, and we just had our first daughter, my wife and I. And we were like, we're not sure this is really where we want to bring up our daughter, right in the middle of London, right in kind of Clerkenwell. And so we were like, but we'd spent all of our kind of careers moving into central London from the suburbs, slowly going into where we wanted to be. And so the idea of moving back to the suburbs was just, I don't know, we just felt like we'd be going backwards. So we were like, where would we go? And again, we had this space, so... my wife's sister is out in Australia with her family, so we went out to Sydney, and it was like a fresh break. It was like a really clean break. She found a job, and actually I was out there helping Canva set up their first studio. They were, I think I was employee number 33 or something, and so went out there. They were brilliant. They kind of paid for me to go out there and everything. So I had this cushion to kind of go out, and I worked with them for a little bit, and then I could just put my head down and just start designing, and just started designing some example work to, fake, studio projects, like a set of labels for artisan vinegars and things, and olive oils, and you just do all this stuff, and I just put it out there on a little website, and I attracted my first client while I was there, first lettering client. And at the same time, I was working on a typeface. After about, I don't know, maybe 6 months, 8 months, something like that, I kind of launched my first typeface with my fonts and things. It was good. It was a good time.
Oh, amazing. That felt real, actually, right? And I think that's actually key. Getting your first paid job is what actually professionalizes you. Like it makes you feel like a professional because you're getting paid for the work that you do. And I think this is a big milestone for many creatives that are starting anew. And I love the fact that this new start in your career also was encompassed with a new start in your life, like moving to Australia and deciding that, moving countries was also going to be a way for you to move away from what you were doing before and like start a completely new Jamie as a lettering artist, right? Yeah. I love that. I've been scrolling through your website before the conversation, and I mean, you have beautiful work, and I'm going to share the link with all of you in the Big Leap Slack channel so that you can visit Jamie's website. We're also going to add this to the show notes so that you can visit Jamie's website. And you have, your work spans between type design, lettering, branding. You do custom projects for huge clients. So I wonder, how did you evolve into this mix? You were just talking about this one lettering client that you had in the beginning. How did you strategically started expanding your capability or your skill to draw letter forms into other things. And perhaps you didn't have any strategy in the beginning, but now looking back, you can see that there was some moving pieces that played a role in creating this mix of work.
Yeah, you're right. There wasn't a crazy strategy. I mean, I can't, if I'm really honest, I was kind of trying everything. Everything that I liked. I mean, there was a limit. I would only sort of do the work I liked, and I think I've heard a lot since, and I talk about it a lot with students when I go in and kind of talk at universities and things. Is about, I think I luckily hit on the vein because I had an echo in the back of my head that I went to a design lecture once and they said, clients buy what they can see. And so the thing is, if you're designing a certain type of work for yourself, that's what they buy. They say, Jamie, can I have this thing, a bit like the thing you've done here, but for me. What they never do, ever, is say, we've got this idea for this kind of crazy thing. It's not really, something that you do, but can you help us with it? That never happens. It's like, we want this and we want you to do your version of it for this. And they even send me, like, agencies often send me a deck. This is what we presented to the client and there's your work in it. And so they basically present your work and say, we know this person, this is the style we're after and stuff. And I see that a fair bit. But I think I was doing that. I mean, it is very selfish, and I'm I was in a very privileged position. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of support, that I had there. I had some financial stuff. My wife supported me, so I was in a really lucky position, and that doesn't happen to everyone. And I think I was working on a type design. I was working on the sort of lettering that I liked, and those are two very different businesses. They're very different businesses, but they do share the same commonality of drawing letters, which is the thing that I love. And I didn't realize it at the time, but those two tracks formed my business, and the two kind of bounce off of each other quite a lot. So I was learning about lettering, learning about quite decorative, quite illustrative lettering, and they were flowing into my type design work. And it's happened over the course of my career that a lot of the lettering work informs the type design. The lettering's a lot more free, a lot more fun. It can be very expressive, and allowing that to come into the type design, I found was a really creative way to let that flow. It doesn't tend to flow so much in the other direction because type design is much more formal and strict about what you can do. There's a lot more rules there, but yeah, it did happen organically, and it very much happened around producing my own work and putting it out there and just saying, hey guys, does anyone like this stuff? Really.
Well, that's so empowering for those listening. Oftentimes, we talk about creating the work you want to be hired for, and I love this phrase of yours of client buy what they can see. And that means that your portfolio really plays a big role in getting the work you want. And that is also very empowering because it starts with you. It starts with you putting the work out there. It starts with you. You are the one that is in charge of creating that opportunity for yourself. But I want to go back to something that you mentioned before that had to do with this conversation between lettering and type design. And I think for many of our listeners and also our members in the room, they might be wondering, hey, what is really the difference here between lettering and type design, and how could a lettering project inform a type design project? So perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about this.
When I kind of talk about it with students, and I had to kind of really lock this into my mind to before I kind of could talk to them about it, so it was very clear. But for me, really, the lettering world that we belong to splits into three things, really. It's calligraphy, which is single, unmodified strokes. It's basically very beautiful writing. It can be any writing, though. I mean, it can be an aeroplane doing a a letter in the sky. That is basically calligraphy. It's one unmodified stroke. Lettering, as you know, is where you're drawing the letters. And then type design is basically where you're drawing the letters and then putting them into a piece of programming to make them into a piece of software that you can type with. And really, while type design does have several restrictions, but obviously technology is getting better and better all the time. That's really the only difference, is you're restricted by the software and what other people can do, with your typeface. So really, when you're designing type, it is drawing letters. It is very much like lettering. But yeah, you want to make sure that when you're handing this font, this typeface over to people, they can use it and they can have fun with it.
Yeah.
But it's really as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the projects that inform, or the lettering projects that inform those type design projects, which special features did they have? Was there something in that lettering that you felt like, hey, this could work as a font? Or was it more like your own desire of like turning that into something more timeless?
Wow. Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, I was really into 3D kind of lettering. I mean, like really into it in a pretty nerdy way, and trying to figure out how you could do color and layered lettering in type. Actually, that did take a long time, but I always had this sort of vision of a piece of lettering that I'd done and go, how could this work? How could I break it up? How can I get the colors? How can I get this depth? How can that work? And that was my first typeface. Well, going back a little bit, I had a typeface that I started in Reading, but it was way too advanced for me at the point. I mean, it was very kind of brushy and beautiful, and that sat on the back burner. That only came out a couple of years ago. Like 10 years later did I launch that typeface. The first typeface that I actually launched was a 3D typeface.
Oh yeah.
And it was very, very connected to the lettering I was doing. And then the second typeface was also 3D, and then it took me a while to build the confidence to do something that was a lot purer. And again, that came from my lettering. I was again, another studio project. I was designing some sort of packaging, and it had these very sort of organic kind of shapes. You can see it on my portfolio. It's called tea packaging, but it had these very kind of organic shapes that were restricted into sort of a geometric grid. And I was like, well, what sort of typeface would work here? And so I designed this very kind of sort of languid serif typeface, very kind of organic serifs. And as just a piece of lettering, I didn't even think about a typeface at the time. But as I was designing it, you're like, this kind of has legs. This could go somewhere. And they were just capital letters at the time. And then slowly, as I was drawing more of them, I was like, okay, we could put this together. We could see how they work together. And so again, it was very organic, but it very much lettering led. And that typeface, which is called Span, is definitely by far my bestseller. And it just came from lettering, just came from this pure idea of matching the lettering to the illustration I was making. And I love that duality. I think if I was just to design type, I'd probably run out of ideas, maybe. I mean, the lettering is the ideas, a lot of those things kind of flow through. And the lettering's faster. I mean, a typeface can take me months and months and months.
Yeah, that's true. Because also, I think that the lettering, because it's just a small piece of typography, is less intimidating in terms of that you can allow yourself to experiment and try different shapes and try interesting shapes without having the restriction of like having the entire having to do the entire alphabet, which can really pull you back in terms of going wild with the shapes. So starting with the lettering and then turning that into a font and going through that challenge can be like a really, really great process. And I think this is also a perfect segue to talk about your work. We have a section in the podcast that is called Artwork in Focus. You submitted this project that you created for Albert and Rose. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The chocolate company.
That's it. So this wasn't a real project. This was one of those early projects of this is the sort of thing I want to do.
Ooh, I love it.
And this inspired several projects you can see on my portfolio where clients went, we want this for us. We want this sort of thing for us. And actually one of the first projects I was given by a client was based on this design.
Oh, this is big. I'm gonna stop right here because I want to say that first, this is stunning as a piece of work. I also want everybody to look at the way it is presented, the way that this looks like a real assignment by a real client. I thought that Albert and Rose were a real brand, and the way it's presented with the mock-up, with the even I think you even designed the chocolate bar with the letter forms, which is incredible. And this is what I think is important to mention. That this is what I think is important when you put a as you call it, a fake piece of, or a fake project on your website, that it needs to look real. You need to take it seriously. You need to take it serious as if it was a client project, right? And I think these are also great opportunities for you to behave as a professional, even before having those first client assignments. So this is stunning, and thank you so much for sharing this, Jamie.
Oh, no worries. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was listening, funny enough, to your recent podcast about portfolio mistakes, and and it all rang true. It was all like yes. It's really hard, to get it to edit your work and things like this. It all rang true. Put a big smile on my face, and but yeah, This was my own project, and I was thinking about, how might it work commercially. So I'm thinking about things like, I mean, I wasn't precious, and but I was thinking about how long is this taking me? If a client was to come to me now I've got an idea of like how long this sort of thing takes. How, of course I'll get faster, of course all these things, but it really was, it was me trying to understand how a project like this might work, in the real life. And so you're absolutely right. It was me trying to sort of be professional. Imagine this is a real project. Imagine this is a real client. How long is it taking me? What are the sort of pitfalls? What are the things I need to watch, etc., etc.
I love it. How long ago did you create this project?
This was really early. This is one of the first things I did when I think I got to Australia.
Oh, okay.
When I was working on my own. So this is an old project. This is like 10 years. But I thought I'd show this because it's sort of like the genesis of what I was doing, and it's an example that I look back on and go, you know what, that probably was the thing that got me going. That was the first client was based on this, et cetera, et cetera.
And it's so empowering also to know that this specific project was led to a real client project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you love most about how it turned out of this piece?
Well, it took a lot of figuring out. So this ampersand with the roses and things, this was kind of inspired by some pre-Victorian letters by John Louis Pouchet, and you can see on I think I linked to it in the project, and he was producing these woodblock characters, letters, pre-Victorian, so we're talking like 1820s. And I was really fascinated by how they work, how they operated as a piece of lettering. It's a really complex little illustration within a letter. And I was like, how does this work? So it got me to ask questions about how the illustration flowed through the spine of the letter, and how it was kind of narrowing, and how did he do the 3D element, and how did the shading work? How did the light work? How did this work? So it was really a very sort of almost educational piece, and it's harking back to history and things like that. And then when I produced it and fiddled with it and played with it and got it to the point where I was happy, I was like, right, now what do you do for a title for something like this? How do I produce a brand that sits with this, that doesn't jar, that doesn't look too kind of weird? And so Albert and Rose are my grandparents' names. And I just produced that as a piece of lettering. So that was just lettered, Albert and Rose, and that formed the basis of my first typeface. So if you go and look at Brim, which I launched in about 2014 or 15, that is basically this piece of lettering as type. So
much came out of this.
Yeah, so much came out of this one project, and I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Because I've seen also, going back to this idea that you say like clients buy what they can see. I've seen on your portfolio that you have a few projects where you had to use this type of illustrative initials, like this ampersand. So it seems that this really stemmed into a lot of different opportunities for you, not only creating a typeface, but also, doing client work for multiple clients.
Yeah. I think, and nobody was really doing this sort of lettering. I think that's the other thing, is that I was lucky to find a sort of a niche. I mean, it is, and it's hard. This is actually a tricky style because it can look very old fashioned if you're not careful. And I look at this now and I'm critical of it.
What are the things that you would change, for instance?
Well, yeah, I would probably modernize it. I'd probably make the pattern inside it a lot more geometric. I'd probably clean it up. I'd probably take away some detail, and some of the more modern pieces in this style that you can see of mine have done that. They've taken away this slightly Victorian feel and kind of refined it and made it a bit more modern, a bit more clean, and also, this would not scale. This wouldn't go down in size. This would be pretty awful on a website and things like that. And so thinking about, now you learn more about what clients need. You think, well, look, if I was to do you an optical version of this, how would it look? What would the small version look like as a little logo and things like that? So you do learn these things. So this is by no means perfect. It was a brilliant, trampoline to jump me to other things, but it has a lot of faults, it has a lot of kind of issues with it that maybe I wouldn't do now, but yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I love this project, and I love all the stories as well, and how this project also, in a way, condenses all the things that you do nowadays, because you do retail fonts, you do custom commissions, you do branding, you do lettering, you do packaging design, all within the world of letter design, so all with your skills of designing and drawing letter forms. So I wonder, how do you structure your time so that you can work on all these different things? Because also for instance, font projects, they have a very different pace to lettering projects, for instance, and I wonder, how do you manage all these different rhythms and dynamics within the work that you do?
That is a brilliant question, and actually, it's the thing that makes me, I think, unique. And it's been very hard to encapsulate that in a piece of text on the website and things like that. I mean, I followed you for a long time, and I know you went through many iterations to hone down what it is you do. You're always quite an inspiration to me, because I always see you tinkering and changing your website, and I was like, oh wow, this is how she talks about herself. And it's taken me a long time to figure out that this duality between type and lettering is my thing.
Yeah,
it's my thing. It's sometimes hard to explain, but the way the pace and the projects work is that I always have a piece of type design in the background. I always have a font on the go sitting there. I've got one now that's sitting there, and then what I do is I let live projects and some of my own projects and things like that pepper it. I basically let that process be broken up, and that works for me really well, because as you said, there's a change of pace. I'm putting the piece of type design down for a bit, and it's always brilliant to kind of just leave it alone for a bit and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. So that works really well. So I let clients kind of distract me, if you like, from what in effect I feel almost is my real work. I mean, the type design really is a very core part of my business. It's the thing that actually pays most of my salary. And because it's recurring kind of income and things like that, and it's passive income, which is really important to any business if you can have a product that produces that. And so that's really it. I love the change of pace. I think if I just did type design, then maybe I'd become a bit weird and insular and stuff. I may be slightly too focused, and I hear other type designers talk about that thing. Whereas these allow me to kind of, remain connected to the real world and connected to clients and things. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I'm thinking that many of our listeners are thinking, hey, because this is also totally doable. And I've seen many lettering artists and designers, explore that duality, including myself. I also have created fonts, and I also have a font library, and I have done custom fonts for clients that perhaps initially hired me for lettering, and then we develop that into a font. So once you have that skill set, you can explore that. And as you said, these are different businesses. So running a font foundry or selling fonts is very different from working on lettering projects one-on-one with clients. So I wonder if a lettering artist or a lettering designer is thinking of exploring this world of type design and is thinking, hey, I have this one lettering piece that I once did and that I think is brilliant, and I would love that to live for longer or to be used in other projects. I would love to turn that into a font, and as you said, also build that recurring income, which you can build with fonts, which is like as you start creating that collection of fonts that give you recurring income, you can create this cushion that supports your business. For someone listening right now that is thinking in venturing into creating their first font, what are some of the things that you wish you would know when you started with designing fonts? Or what are some of the pieces of advice you can give to someone starting new in this world?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to explore that, because the things you said, it's a product, recurring income, etc., etc. It's something that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, only in the last few years has the income grown. I mean, we're talking, this is a 10-year journey for me. So only, in the last few years has it become a really significant part of the business. Yeah. So I think I'd say to people, look, don't think you're going to launch a typeface and suddenly it's magically bringing in loads and loads of money. My typeface is, you just never know. Some typefaces you think this is a surefire winner. You hear other type designers talking about this. You're sure this is the one that's going to catapult you to fame and stardom. But it's like trying to design. It's like trying to record like a number one song. In the chart. It's there's so many luck factors and zeitgeist and all these kind of other things that kind of impinge on it. And so the thing is, I would say, don't go into it necessarily with a purely commercial mind. Do it because it's something you really love and want to explore, and you want to do that. And then if it starts to sell, then it's something you can develop more, or you could expand the typeface. I mean, maybe even start out doing a very limited character set. Maybe, I saw when I was first getting into type design, I saw people who were just launching number sets. You'd literally, this is 0 to 1, and I remember seeing it in a magazine. I remember seeing it, I think I was in New York, and I saw they were doing a countdown of something, restaurants or whatever it was, and it was the typeface they'd used was just the numbers. If you went and bought that typeface, it was just numbers, and I thought that was a brilliant way to do it. And actually, I started doing a typeface of just numbers to begin with, and then that gave me the confidence to kind of expand it out. So I would say that, and it does take a lot of dedication. There's a lot of technical bits and bobs you need to learn. But I mean, I learned through using Glyphs, which is the software that basically in the world of type design, there's basically RoboFont and Glyphs, and then there's Fontographer, but not many people are using that. I'm sure it's growing. Just
for those that don't know, it's a font editor. So it's like the software that you use to do a font.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you're basically drawing the letters in this piece of software, and the software stitches them together as a font so you can actually type with it. I mean, Glyphs is predominantly more I hesitate to say it definitively, but I think it's more the the tool of choice in Europe, and the forums and things like that are fantastic. You only need to go in and ask a question and somebody is there with the answer. I mean, it's really good. The community is so supportive. And so self-learning is definitely possible. So if you're thinking about it, it's definitely possible to do. You don't necessarily need to take a course. Some of my lettering friends have taken courses. I think, is it... someone Baltus does a course. You'll see him on Instagram talking about do's and don'ts. And so there are courses out there, online courses out there. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd say go for it. And there are places to launch them. I mean, if you want to launch your typeface with my fonts, for example, they put it through a review, but assuming you've got everything right, there you go. Your font is there. And there's lots of places where you can put your typeface.
Yeah, and I love also what you said about making that first test, which translates into a prototype. You don't need to create the entire character set with multiple languages and all the diacritics and everything. You can also create a set of just numbers and put it out there and see how that resonates with the audience, with the people. If people buys it, then perhaps you then expand it into a full character set, and then you can expand that further. But I think it's great just to have that concept in your mind of like, okay, I'm going to put that piece of work out there and see how that resonates, because you can spend years creating a font and then you publish it and you think this is going to be your great hit, and you put it out there and it suddenly flops, or there's a very similar typeface that is doing the same work that then one you just published. And it doesn't work out for you. So you want to make those small tests and see how it lands, and take that information and infuse it back into the project so that it continues to grow. I love that concept. And I think it's a lot less intimidating than, putting like the full typeface out there.
That's it. And you see, you look around and you'll see a lot of typefaces that are just the A to Z and some punctuation. I mean, for some projects, that's all a graphic designer needs, and then like you said, then you can add some languages in, somebody from Sweden might say, can you do me an A ring? I really love your typeface. And of course, they're like, okay, well, look, this is getting some traction. Of course, I'll design that for you. And there's a company, Fresh Fonts, in the US, which basically run their whole foundry on this concept of here's a prototype design. People can buy it for a reduced price because they know it's in production, and then the type designer just releases updates here and there, and as it and people get the new font, and so it is out there. Yeah,
I love it. I previously asked you about how do you balance out, or how do you organize your time so that you can work on this myriad of projects that have several different bases? So to that mix, or to that question, I want to add the business side of things. So on top of like keeping your creative work running and, keeping producing the fonts that you are creating right now and working for clients, how do you manage all the business side of things? Do you get help? Do you have also some sort of system that you apply in your business? Give us the deets.
Yeah. This is funny because I hear yourself and other type designers sort of have, because there is a big business side to any. Yeah. It is a business. It's a business. So there's business things you have to do. You have to do your tax and things like this. And yes, I do work with an accountant. But because the software is pretty simple, I run my own accounts and things, do my own invoicing, do my, I'm pretty fastidious with all the number stuff. You have to be. You have to really know where the money's coming from, where it's going. And so I can look at my, I use Xero as my account software, Xero with an X. And that tells me that, I split down, where does the money come from? Is it commissions? Is it coming from, say, my fonts? Is it coming from Adobe? Is it coming from my own Foundry sales? And so I can split them down and see exactly what is happening. And it has, I have used that to kind of adjust where I'm putting my focus and my time, especially if, it would be really good to earn some more money with, then maybe I should do more fonts and things like that. And so it does influence a little bit about, where I put my time. But at the same time, you can also ignore it and just follow your passion. So sometimes, you shouldn't really be doing this job because it's not paying very well necessarily, and you're putting a lot of work into it, but you know what, you really want to do it.
Yeah.
So without having all the numbers and all the finances and knowing your goal of how much you need to make each year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you can't make a decision like that confidently. I think so having a really good handle on the numbers and your goals, you can then look at something which isn't financially credible and go, I just really want to do it, and I can do it.
Yeah, and I think also, having a grip on, where the money is coming from. I love that insight that has to do with understanding where the money is coming from and being very conscious of that, and knowing that you have that leverage of saying, okay, if I do more of this type of projects, I will earn more money, and that will give me more space to do these other projects that perhaps don't bring that much money in, but I still want to do them because, this is my business and I want to have fun, and I just want to do it. And that's the great deal of like running your own business, right? That you're able to decide what to do. So it really, having a grip on the finances and what is working in your business really gives you that creative freedom that oftentimes creatives miss to see. They think that, doing the administrative work is really like, it's the work that I have to do. But it can give you really good insights on that give you more space to do the creative work you love.
Yeah. And I also think there's something quite meditative about doing that type of work. I believe you have to look at it in a positive way. If you look at it and you think, oh man, I hate doing this thing, then it will always be a chore.
Yeah.
And, there are techniques to get around that. You can say to yourself, right, I'm just going to spend I know I hate it, but I'm going to spend 10 minutes doing it. And you find after 10 minutes, you're like, I'm into it now. It's good. I'm just going to finish. So there are techniques around that if you hate it. But I personally, I don't mind boring things. Otherwise I wouldn't be a type designer. And type design can be so bloody boring, when you're in the weeds of it. So I don't mind that so much. I think, I think that's just part of the course. But you're right. I mean, the other thing I've learned as well, you might look at my portfolio or some other designers and lettering portfolios, and you see this. I'm sure you've seen this, and you might have even talked about it before, because I've got someone's words in my head, and they might be yours, about how bigger clients, they might pay more money. Not always, sometimes they're very strict on budget, but bigger clients, might pay more money. They might give you more credibility, but they're not always the most creative clients. And sometimes it's the client that doesn't have a lot of money, that isn't a big name, where you can be more creative. And you've got to know, can I take this job? Can I balance these things? Because really, I love working with smaller companies, and you can have a bit more influence. You can steer. You can do something that you really love, and they're a bit more open to that in ways that maybe a larger company who've got a very defined goal they need to hit isn't. So.
Oh, I love this, Jamie. And I want to just say to the members that I'm going to take your questions right after this. So you can drop them in the chat so that I can pick them up from there. But Jamie, I think this is so especially empowering coming from someone like you, who has been in the business for over a decade, that you still give space to this. I think from the outside, oftentimes one tend to see others running their business very efficiently, like you do. I see you very like a very efficient business owner that has everything in order, that knows the projects that he's working on, Jamie. And I feel like many people would think like, well, I mean, it's too focused on the business side, it's too focused on like just making money. And I think that in our world, in the creative world, is not well seen, or is not well labeled in a way that you are just selling out because you're really taking care of the business side. But I think that neglecting the business side is really also neglecting your creativity because it doesn't give you the room to decide which projects you take on and which you don't. So I think it's so empowering coming from someone like you that because you have a grip on the business side of things, you are able to take on projects and to still work for small clients where you get to, as you said, steer the direction of the project, or you get to more say into what the project is gonna end up being. And I think for many of those listening, this is really empowering, Jamie.
Oh, good. I hope so. And don't get me wrong, 10 years in, I still haven't figured it all out. There's still things, where I'm asking myself a question about, am I pricing this right? That never stops. Never stops. You're like, have I priced this too low? Have I priced it too high? Are they going to say no because it's too much? We all have those things, and that never stops. You can be more confident, but you always have them in the back of your mind. It's taken me a long time before I'd even venture to call myself, for example, an illustrator. Illustration is a big part of what I do, but I was not an illustrator. I'm not one of those people. I mean, I could only hope to one day be an illustrator. Do you know what I mean? All those things still happen. So it never goes away. But I think those things keep you sharp. Yeah. I think you've got to have the worries. You've got to have, you look at everybody's kind of Instagram and things like that, and they're all living their best lives, of course, online. But, if they're anything like me, it's like a duck. It looks serene on the surface, but the feet are paddling underneath very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that always gives you information. When you still feel unsure about pricing a specific type of project, it's perhaps because one doesn't have experience in that specific type of project. So that gives you information. Hey, I need to know more about this. I need to ask other people. I need to inform myself more. And you're always learning as a business owner, just because you're doing so many different things, not only the creative, but also the business side of things. When it comes to building your personal brand, because you also have a strong personal brand in terms of you have a portfolio that reflects your style, you have online presence. What do you think are some of the elements that are important in terms of building your own presence as a creative, besides your portfolio?
I think describing yourself in words is one of the hardest things. Like, for example, when we did this podcast, you said, can you send me a quick summary of you, Jamie, and you need that online. It's how do you position yourself, and it's so hard. It's so, writing. I mean, I've seen you doing it, I've seen me doing it, rewriting your introduction line. How can I get this really short? How can clients know who I am from this short little bit of text? And and it brings up all sorts of little personal niggles, like I said about calling myself an illustrator or a lettering artist. I had such a problem with that for so long, a lettering artist. And I'm like, well, but that's just the term in the industry. I am a lettering artist. And so it's having maybe a little bit of confidence and daring do to kind of, position yourself. And I think in words, not as you said, not just your portfolio, but in words, how do you want people to understand what you do? And I think that's probably one of the things I'd say is, how do you describe yourself?
Oh, that's so powerful, because I think that, recently I had a podcast interview with Lauren Holm. She's also a lettering artist. And she said something that stayed with me, which is like, you have to tell the world what you want. And I think that introducing yourself is a way of telling the world what you want. And even though for someone that is just beginning, they might not still fully embody that and believe that they are actually that thing, already being able to vocalize what you want to be is like telling the world what you want to be. And I think you did that by, back then when you created this fake project, you told the world what you wanted. You told the world that you wanted to do this, and you're doing it first. So I think that's a great insight, just being able to present yourself in the way you want to be seen. So I love that insight for everybody listening. So Luis is asking about AI. And do you think are the challenges that creatives face on today's in today's AI times, and how to overcome them? AI affects our work, like it affects all of the industries. All of the industries are like upside down because of AI, and they don't know how to deal with it, or whether it's a good or a bad thing. So I would love to hear, and everybody in the room would love to hear your insights about this.
I mean, I think the first thing is you've got to educate yourself. You've got to know as much about it as possible. I mean, I even set up a little kind of side Instagram account, playing with it and seeing what it could do with lettering, and seeing its restrictions and, what it can and can't do, and playing with it. And, I wrote an article on it with a PhD doctorate working in AI specifically for type. And so I'd say the first thing is educate yourself, learn the do's and don'ts, what it can, what it can't do. And then I suppose after that, well, I mean, it is dangerous. It hasn't moved as fast as a lot of people said it would. I mean, I think, the imagery and ChatGPT and things like that, they've advanced a bit, but they haven't kind of taken over the industry as yet, whereas a lot of people were saying, I'll give it a year. So I see it as a tool. I think it would be very hard for type design, for AI to have the same finesse maybe as a letterer, but right now it's a brilliant starting point. If you need ideas and things like that, it can be a great jumping off point. So yeah, I would use it positively, educate yourself about it, and just keep up with it. Just so if there's a threat coming, you can adjust what you're doing.
That's great. I think that puts the right mindset in the mind of our listeners, because it's like you have to know about this. I feel many creatives are talking about it as a threat. They are afraid of it, so therefore they are not approaching it. And I think that the best thing you can do is to get to know it and to understand what it can do, what it cannot do. And this is the way that you first will be less afraid of it, because you know it. Like with anybody else, with the person, when you know someone, you know someone, you are not afraid of that person. So I love that you're putting that mindset in the mind of our listeners. Like, get to know AI, understand what it can do for you, because perhaps it can also benefit you in other elements of your business. It can benefit you in like doing client outreach, or creating social media material to promote your work. So while many creatives are afraid and worried about it and not doing anything with it, I think that changing that perspective to start playing with it and seeing what it can do for you can really make a difference in what you're doing right now. And yeah, I love that.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Mary is asking about FontShop, and this is interesting. So you know about the type design industry, and we have a lot of type designers. Of designers in the room, which know about type design, of course, and work with fonts every day. And Mary is asking, the FontShop merging from the outside seemed like a huge change. Has it helped the industry, font designers? So I believe Mary is asking about the FontShop being bought by Monotype, right? And also my fonts being bought by Monotype as well. I think it's a tricky question for you, because you also work with them, I guess. But perhaps you have any insight
Yeah. I mean, I have my eyes open about it. I mean, it is better to have more competition. And I think they are a big player. They're a very big player. There's several big players in the industry. There is Adobe, there's Monotype. I love typography. That's why I choose to support Type Network. So my fonts are with 2 small independent foundries and 2 big foundries. And I think that's important. I think, what the industry doesn't need is one monolithic owner of all the fonts. Of course, we want variety. We want choice. And so the way to do it is is if you would do anything else, you choose to support other avenues, and that's what I do. So yes, I'm with Adobe. I'm with Monotype. I do feel sad about kind of FontShop going and getting subsumed. But I'm also looking about the future of new, smaller foundries coming up.
I love this. To wrap up the podcast, we play a fun game, which is like completing the sentence. Essentially, I start the sentence and you complete it with a word or a few words. Are you ready?
Yes. Nervous.
A good typeface always starts with
A good brief.
oh,
You have to write your own brief. Because I've tried it where I don't write my own brief, and I've just done it through gut instinct, and man, it's a disaster.
people take note. Brief. Start with the brief. You don't go anywhere without a brief.
Yeah.
On my desk, you will always find
Reference material.
okay.
So like I'm drawing plants at the moment, so I take lots and lots of pictures of plants. If I'm drawing those plants, so there's reference material actually all over the show. There's more, referencing old woodcuts and things like that. And so, yeah, always. It's a mess with them, actually. You can't see the mess.
Okay, next one. A project I would still love to do one day is?
I'd love to do something very official, government official, maybe something for the royal family or something like that. Something really official where it was kind of really had to be absolutely pristine. That would be lovely.
Excellent. You're telling the world that you want to do it, so it will come. Right now, it feels like the perfect moment to
hunker down for winter. It's cold here. It's a bit miserable. Yeah, I think hunker down with a fire and comfort food.
Lovely, Jamie. Thank you so much for joining us today. And this has been just such a nice conversation, and I know that our listeners will love it. Please share that with us. Where can people find you?
Look me up on jamieclarketype.com. Look me up on the website. Yeah, you can see pretty much everything there.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and see you on the next episode of Open Studio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.